walk away when not appreciated. Good morning, everyone. Let's talk about something that often feels uncomfortable but is necessary, knowing when to walk away. There's strength in holding on, but there's also undeniable courage in letting go, especially when our worth and efforts are overlooked. Appreciation is not just about acknowledgement, it's about connection. When you consistently show up, give your best, and still feel invisible, it's time to ask yourself, am I staying because I believe in this? Or because I'm afraid of what it means to leave? Walking away doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you failed. Walking away is an act of self-respect, a declaration of your value, and a boundary for your own well-being. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is leave the table where love, respect, and gratitude are no longer served. The way we allow others to treat us speaks volumes about how we view ourselves and the boundaries we set in our relationships. Every interaction is a subtle negotiation, a silent agreement that establishes norms for how others engage with us. When we accept treatment that feels dismissive, disrespectful, or neglectful, we unintentionally communicate that this behavior is permissible. Conversely, when we assert our worth through clear boundaries and expectations, we set a standard that others are more likely to respect. This dynamic isn't about blaming others for their behavior, but about recognizing the power we have in shaping the relationships and environments we're part of. Many of us hesitate to address feeling underappreciated or overlooked. Perhaps we fear confrontation or worry about being perceived as overly sensitive or demanding. But silence has its own consequences. When we stay quiet, we create a pattern where others assume their behavior is acceptable, and over time, this can lead to deeper feelings of resentment, frustration, or inadequacy. Addressing these dynamics doesn't have to be about conflict. It can be about communication, self-awareness, and a commitment to nurturing healthier relationships. Teaching others how to treat us begins with how we treat ourselves. If we consistently put ourselves last, neglect our needs, or downplay our accomplishments, we signal to the world that this is the standard we've accepted for ourselves. It's not about being boastful or self-centered, but about acknowledging and valuing your own contributions in humanity. When we show up authentically and confidently in our worth, we inspire others to respond in kind. This isn't always easy, especially in relationships where patterns of neglect or imbalance have taken root. For example, in a professional setting, an employee who regularly stays late, takes on extra work without acknowledgement, and avoids speaking up about their contributions might find their efforts taken for granted. Similarly, in personal relationships, a person who always prioritizes the needs of others without expressing their own desires may find themselves feeling unappreciated. In both cases, breaking the cycle requires a willingness to pause, reflect, and take action. Change often begins with small steps. It might mean setting boundaries like declining a request when you're overwhelmed or taking time for self-care, even when others expect your attention. It might involve having honest conversations where you express how certain behaviors impact you and what you need moving forward. These actions may feel uncomfortable initially, but they are crucial for fostering mutual respect and understanding. It's also important to recognize that some people may resist or challenge these changes, especially if they've grown accustomed to a certain dynamic. This resistance isn't necessarily a reflection of your worth, but rather indication of the adjustment they need to make in how they view and interact with you. Stay consistent in your boundaries and remember that those who genuinely care about you will adapt and grow with you. Ultimately, teaching others how to treat you is a continuous process of self-respect and assertiveness. It's about choosing to surround yourself with people who see, appreciate, and honor your value, and being willing to walk away when those standards are not met. Appreciation is the cornerstone of every meaningful relationship. It is the glue that binds us to one another, a simple yet profound acknowledgement that says, I see you, I value you, and I'm grateful for who you are or what you bring into my life. Whether in our personal relationships, professional partnerships, or fleeting encounters, the presence or absence of appreciation shapes the depth and quality of our connections. At its core, appreciation fulfills a basic human need to be recognized and valued. Every person, regardless of their role or circumstance, desires to feel that what they do and who they are matters. When we acknowledge someone's efforts, kindness, or presence, we validate their humanity. This validation fosters trust, strengthens bonds, and encourages openness. Conversely, the absence of appreciation can lead to feelings of alienation, resentment, and even disconnection. Consider the relationships that thrive in your life and the ones that feel strained. In most cases, the difference lies in the presence of mutual appreciation. In relationships where both parties feel seen and valued, there's a sense of safety and fulfillment. These connections are marked by gestures of gratitude, affirming words, and a willingness to recognize each other's contributions. On the other hand, relationships lacking appreciation often feel one-sided or transactional. Over time, this imbalance can erode the connection, leaving one or both parties feeling taken for granted. The power of appreciation lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require grand gestures or elaborate acts. A heartfelt thank you, a thoughtful note, or even a sincere compliment can go a long way in nurturing a connection. These small moments of acknowledgement may seem insignificant, but they carry tremendous weight. They remind us that our actions and presence matter, that someone noticed and cared enough to express it. In professional settings, appreciation is equally vital. Employees who feel recognized for their contributions are more engaged, motivated, and loyal. Teams that celebrate individual and collective achievements are more cohesive and productive. Leaders who practice appreciation cultivate an environment of trust and respect, where people feel empowered to share ideas and take risks. Without appreciation, workplaces can become environments of competition, burnout, and dissatisfaction. Yet, appreciation isn't just about expressing gratitude, it's about being attuned to others. It requires us to pay attention, to notice the effort, sacrifice, or value someone brings. It's easy to overlook these things when we're caught up in our routines or when we start to take people for granted. Cultivating appreciation means slowing down, observing, and making a conscious effort to acknowledge the people who enrich our lives. Ultimately, appreciation is reciprocal. When we express it, we not only uplift others, but also deepen our own sense of connection and gratitude. It creates a cycle of positive energy, where both the giver and receiver are enriched. By making appreciation a consistent practice, we strengthen the bonds that sustain us and nurture the relationships that bring meaning to our lives. Walking away is often seen as a loss or a failure, but in reality, it's one of the most powerful acts of self-empowerment and growth. When you leave behind situations, relationships, or environments that no longer serve you, you open up space for the things that truly align with your values, needs, and aspirations. This act isn't about giving up, it's about making room for what you truly deserve, a life filled with purpose, respect, and joy. Every choice we make carries energy, and staying in the wrong place can drain that energy over time. Whether it's a toxic workplace, an unfulfilling relationship, or a pattern of behavior that no longer supports your growth, holding on to what's not working keeps you tethered to a cycle of dissatisfaction. Often we stay because it feels safer or more familiar than the uncertainty of leaving. But clinging to something out of fear can block you from discovering opportunities and connections that align with your highest potential. Walking away is not an act of rejection, it's an act of courage. It requires you to trust that there is something better ahead, even if you can't yet see it. It's a declaration to yourself and the universe that you are no longer willing to settle for less than you deserve. It's choosing to prioritize your well-being over the comfort of familiarity, to step into the unknown with faith that your worth will guide you to something greater. This process often involves grief and discomfort. Letting go of what you've invested time, energy, and emotions into can feel like a loss. It's natural to mourn what might have been or what you hoped for. But this grief is also part of the transformation. It allows you to release the hold of the past and clear the emotional space needed to welcome something new. In this sense, walking away is both an ending and a beginning, a necessary step in creating the life you truly desire. It's important to remember that walking away doesn't mean you failed. It means you're recognizing that not everything is meant to last forever. People, circumstances, and goals evolve, and so do you. What once served you may no longer fit the person you are becoming. By releasing what no longer aligns with your values or aspirations, you honor your growth and make room for relationships, opportunities, and experiences that do. When you create space by walking away, you invite clarity and possibility. The act of letting go shifts your focus from what's holding you back to what lies ahead. It allows you to reassess your priorities, rediscover your passions, and align with opportunities that resonate with your true self. Walking away doesn't close doors, it opens them. It's about believing that you are worthy of more and being willing to take the steps necessary to claim it. Ultimately, walking away is an act of self-respect. It's a statement that you will no longer compromise your happiness, values, or integrity for something that doesn't honor your worth. By leaving behind what no longer serves you, you create the space for a life that reflects your truest desires and your highest potential. Growth is one of the most transformative and rewarding experiences we can undergo, yet it often requires immense courage. It demands that we step into the unknown, challenge our limitations, and confront the parts of ourselves or our lives that may feel comfortable but no longer serve us. True growth is not a passive process. It requires intentional action, resilience, and the willingness to embrace discomfort for the sake of becoming a better version of ourselves. At its core, growth begins with self-awareness. This means recognizing the areas in our lives that could use change, whether they involve relationships, career choices, personal habits, or deeply held beliefs. However, identifying these areas is only the first step. The real challenge comes in deciding to act. It takes courage to admit that the way we've been doing things might not be the best way forward. It's an act of bravery to acknowledge that we may need to unlearn patterns, shift perspectives, or take risks to reach a new level of understanding or achievement. One of the biggest obstacles to growth is fear of failure, fear of judgment, or even fear of success. Change inherently involves uncertainty, and stepping outside the familiar can feel overwhelming. It's far easier to stay in our comfort zones where we know what to expect and feel a sense of control. However, comfort zones, while reassuring, are rarely places of growth. They can become stagnant, limiting our potential and preventing us from exploring what we're truly capable of achieving. Courage in the face of growth means embracing the unknown and accepting that mistakes and setbacks are part of the process. It means viewing failure not as an endpoint, but as a stepping stone toward progress. Each misstep offers an opportunity to learn, adjust, and move forward with greater insight. When we shift our mindset to see challenges as growth opportunities rather than insurmountable obstacles, we unlock the strength to persevere, even when the path ahead feels uncertain. Another aspect of growth that requires courage is letting go of what no longer aligns with who we are becoming. This might mean walking away from relationships that no longer nurture us, stepping out of roles that no longer fulfill us, or releasing beliefs that have kept us stuck. Letting go can feel like loss, but it's also an act of liberation. It creates space for new opportunities, relationships, and experiences that are better aligned with our evolving selves. Growth also challenges us to be vulnerable. It asks us to admit that we don't have all the answers, that we might stumble along the way, and that we need support from others. Vulnerability is often perceived as weakness, but in reality, it's a profound act of courage. By allowing ourselves to be open and authentic, we create deeper connections with others and build the resilience needed to navigate the journey of growth. Ultimately, growth is not a destination, but an ongoing process. It requires us to continually push past our fears, embrace discomfort, and trust in our ability to adapt and thrive. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a testament to our courage and commitment to becoming the best versions of ourselves. In a world where validation often feels like a necessary currency for emotional well-being, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that our value is contingent on how others see us. We may seek affirmation from others, whether it's through praise, recognition, or approval, and when that validation is absent, we can begin to question our worth. However, the truth is that our value is not tied to external validation. It is inherent, constant, and independent of others' opinions or actions. Understanding this fundamental truth can free us from the need for constant approval and allow us to cultivate a deeper sense of self-worth. One of the most powerful realizations we can have is that our value comes from within. It is not defined by the roles we play in other people's lives or how others perceive our contributions. This realization is empowering because it means that regardless of what others think or say, our worth remains intact. When we tie our self-esteem and value to external sources of approval, we give away our power to others. We allow their judgments to determine how we feel about ourselves, which can leave us vulnerable to fluctuations in their opinions or actions. The moment we disconnect our sense of worth from others' validation, we reclaim that power and we stop giving away our emotional well-being. This doesn't mean that validation or feedback from others is unimportant. Constructive criticism, appreciation, and recognition can be valuable and encouraging, especially in environments like work, school, or personal relationships. However, these external affirmations should be seen as supplements to our intrinsic worth, not the foundation of it. When we rely too heavily on the opinions of others to define our value, we put ourselves at the mercy of their moods, biases, or expectations. If they fail to recognize or appreciate us in the way we hope, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. In contrast, when we understand that our worth is inherent and independent of others' validation, we can approach situations with a sense of security and self-assurance. We don't need others' approval to feel good about ourselves, and this gives us the freedom to act in alignment with our values and desires without the pressure to please or conform. We become less dependent on external feedback and more focused on cultivating internal validation through self-reflection, self-respect, and self-compassion. This internal validation comes from recognizing our own accomplishments, qualities, and strengths. It means acknowledging our progress, celebrating our efforts, and accepting ourselves, even in moments of imperfection. It's about embracing our flaws and understanding that they do not detract from our value as human beings. When we practice self-acceptance, we build a foundation of self-worth that is stable and unshakable, regardless of the opinions or actions of others. Furthermore, when we are no longer reliant on others' validation, we also become more authentic in our relationships. We are able to show up as our true selves without the fear of judgment or rejection. This authenticity fosters deeper connections with others as we attract people who appreciate us for who we truly are, not for the image we've tried to project in order to gain approval. In this way, releasing the need for validation doesn't lead to isolation, rather, it leads to more meaningful and genuine connections. Ultimately, understanding that our value isn't tied to others' validation is a transformative shift in how we view ourselves and interact with the world. It is an invitation to stop seeking external approval and to start affirming our worth from within. When we truly internalize this truth, we live with more freedom, authenticity, and self-compassion, knowing that we are enough regardless of what others may think. The greatest gift we can give ourselves is the understanding that our value is not dependent on external validation. It is something inherent within us, constant, unshakable, and independent of others' opinions or actions. When we stop seeking approval and start validating ourselves, we free ourselves from the chains of insecurity and doubt. We empower ourselves to live authentically, act with purpose, and cultivate meaningful relationships that honor who we truly are. So I encourage you to remember you are enough. Your worth is not determined by the recognition of others, but by the love and respect you give to yourself. Embrace your inherent value, stand confidently in your truth, and let that be the foundation for how you navigate the world. When you do this, you'll find that the right people will see you for who you are, and you'll attract the opportunities and experiences that align with your true self. Thank you.